Okay, this is DBTV. I'm here with Portuguese wine specialist Jamie Goode, and we're at the Vinho Verde tasting at Tower Hill. And we just completed a seminar all about Vinho Verde. So Jamie, what are the exciting developments going on in the region at the moment?
I think what interests me is that it's a kind of region that's in sort of transition. The transition from the very traditional style, which were these crisp, light, low alcohol white wines with a bit of spritz from the carbon dioxide, were inexpensive, inconsequential gluggers. Very useful wines, but just not all that terribly interesting. And what's happening now is that the viticulture is improving. People are getting more ambitious with their wines, and they're using their terroirs and the grape varieties they've got, like Loureiro and Alvarinho, to make some really interesting dry white wines. And also I'm very excited about red Vinho Verde as well, but that's kind of a minority interest, I guess. But the region is producing now producing the best wines it's ever produced. Okay. And I think it's producing some really good ones.
Do you think Alvarinho might be the kind of future superstar grape? Has it got the most potential, do you think?
I think Alvarinho and Loureiro together, both very interesting grape varieties, and they're making some really good wines as well. And obviously with Alvarinho, you've got the success of the Spanish Alvarinhos, which is kind of something that will help raise the visibility of the Portuguese versions, I think.
Okay. And Portugal is usually associated with like very big, slightly oaked reds. Do you think there's maybe gives Vinho Verde an opportunity to provide a kind of light and refreshing alternative?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that that they're very the red Vinho Verdes are they're pretty unusual wines, but I really like them, and I think there's a future for them because they just offer a point of difference. They offer something that's very unusual, very fresh. Sort of love it or hate it wines, I guess. Some people just don't like them, but people who do like them really tend to love them. Okay,
and what kind of things can you find in red Vinho Verde?
Sorry?
What kind of characteristics can you find?
The styles, yeah. Well, they're just very raw, almost unfinished wines. They've got high acidity, they've got quite a lot of tannin, and lovely intense fruit. Just very immediate wines. They're incredibly fresh, maybe a little bit rustic, but beautifully bright, vibrant, and alive wines, I think, that work well with food.
And going back to the whites, you mentioned in the tasting, which I think is very true, they seem very modern wines in a way. They fit with the kind of modern palates with the low alcohol and the freshness, which I think is a good opportunity. But you mentioned that the modern styles are kind of moving away from adding the CO2?
Yeah, I think the most interesting wines, I think that they don't rely on using lots of CO2 to add freshness. They're intrinsically quite fresh and interesting wines. And I think in some ways that spritz can be a little bit off-putting for consumers. If they pour a glass of white wine, they don't expect to see bubbles in it unless it's a sparkling wine. So I think it might be a good move to kind of move away from that tradition of using quite a lot of carbon dioxide.
Okay, and speaking of sparkling wines, you mentioned that there are some sparklers also produced in the region.
Yeah, the espumantes. They're really interesting wines, actually, very fresh, very bright, really useful gastronomic sparkling wines, I think, including red sparkling wines, and they're worth looking out for, definitely.
Okay, and finally, what do you think Vinho Verde need to do in order to get more recognised in the UK market?
I think, first of all, they need to not be political about the wines they show to people. They need to show the region's best wines to people when they do tastings like this, and not just a political selection. And they really just need to emphasise what the region can do at the high end, I think, and also packaging. I think they just need to think a little bit more carefully about the sort of packaging they use, because packaging that's successful in the domestic market might not be successful in the UK market. Packaging matters a great deal.
Okay, Jamie Goode, thank you very much.
You're welcome.